皆さん、こんにちは。
こんにちは。
ビデオレクチャーです。テキストの118ページから120ページまでです。From page 118 to 122, this is expressing location using the something wa, something ni arimasu, imasu pattern and the something wa, something desu pattern. Let's first start by reviewing our basic sentence pattern, which, as you know, is location ni noun ga arimasu and imasu. Please take a look at the handout that's marked Chapter 4, Video Lecture 1. You'll see 1A pattern here. And using the illustration that's on the bottom of this handout, please make a sentence using the location word that I give you. いいですか？はい。じゃあ、前。
机の前に椅子があります。
はい。英語で？
In front of the desk, there is a chair.
はい、いいです。じゃあ、下。
椅子の下にカバンがあります。
はい、いいですね。じゃあ、英語で？
Under the chair, there is a bag.
はい。いいですか？皆さん、わかりますか？じゃあ、皆さんも書いてください。上。じゃあ、英語で？いいですか？ Okay, there's also a variation to this pattern. On the handout in 1B, you'll see the pattern N, which stands for noun. So noun ga, location ni arimasu, and imasu. And basically what we're doing, we're simply moving that location ni part of the initial basic sentence pattern towards the middle of the sentence. We're flip-flopping the location ni and the noun ga parts of the sentence around in variation B. And actually it doesn't, in doing that, it doesn't really change the meaning of the sentence all that much. But let's try making some sentences with these words. 男の人。
男の人が机の横にあります。
え、あります？
います、います。男の人が机の横にいます。
はい、そうですね。英語で？
There is a man beside the desk.
はい。はい、そうです。じゃあ、皆さんも書いてください。ですか？電話。はい、じゃあ、英語で？
質問があります。
はい、何ですか？
Do you use imas for animals too?
Yes, for animate objects, animate things, such as animals and people. But even though a tree is alive, as you know, we would not, it doesn't move fast enough for us to use the verb imas. いい質問です。皆さん、いいですか？
もう一つ質問があります。
はい、はい、どうぞ。
Sensei, you said they use two sentences and A and B are not all that different. What exactly is the difference?
Well, in English, as you said, what was it? Beside the desk there is a man, and there is a man beside the desk. So it's kind of the difference between those two English sentences, which isn't really that much of a difference. In Japanese, there's a slight difference in that, as you know, the main part of a Japanese sentence comes where?
At the end with the verb?
At the end, exactly. So the verb is the main part of a Japanese sentence. So anything that basically comes closer to the end of the sentence becomes, as it were, more important or more, not so much emphatic, but you want to focus on that more. So anything that is further away from the verb or further away from the end of the sentence, you want to make less of a main point. So that might be a slight difference in those two patterns. いいですか？はい。はい。わかります。はい。じゃあ皆さん、on part 2, or actually pattern Roman numeral 2A of this handout, you'll see a somewhat related pattern to our basic location に noun があります and います pattern. じゃあどうぞ、トマさん、pattern 2A 読んでください。
Noun は location にあります or います。
はい、いいですね。皆さん、remember the basic difference between は and が。Remember that は, we mentioned, is used for things that we consider old information. For example, we know that something exists, and we want to ask where it is, or we want to ask something about it, or we want to state something about it. If it's old information, we use the topic marker は. Another way to look at it, as I said, it's a topic marker, and it's the topic of our sentence or the question. And you probably remember several weeks ago when we did self-introductions, you used sentences such as 私はアメリカ人です or 私は1年生です or 私の専攻は経済学です This is the same は, this topic marker は that we are seeing here. So listen to these two example sentences. この部屋にラジオがあります。ラジオは机の上にあります。もう一度聞いてください。この部屋にラジオがあります。ラジオは机の上にあります。トマさん、英語で何と言いますか？
In this room, there is a radio. The radio is on the desk.
そうですね、そうですね。You start off with a radio when you mention it for the first time. ラジオがあります。And this is what we consider the new information. You're mentioning it for the first time. But after mentioning it, it now becomes old information, and you refer to it as the radio. ラジオは机の上にあります。わかりますか？はい。じゃあトーマスさん、この部屋の中に何がありますか？
本と箱とタバコとペンがあります。
はい、そうですね。じゃあペンはどこにありますか？
引き出しの中にあります。
もう一度。
引き出しの中にあります。
はい、そうですね。引き出し、皆さんわかりますか？引き出しって何ですか？
Drawer。
はい、そうですね。じゃあタバコはどこにありますか？
椅子の上にあります。
はい、そうですね。じゃあもう一つ、本はどこにありますか？
机の上にあります。
はい、よくできました。皆さんわかりますか？皆さん、now please try writing a mini dialogue similar to the one that you just heard, where A is asking, first of all, what is in the room, and B is responding to that. And we're using the same illustration of Mr. Miller and his room. You want to use two items from the box listed on your handout, and A is asking the location of each of the items. いいですか？書いてください。はい、いいですね。じゃあ、now let's get to the bottom part of the handout where we have our basic pattern, location にいます and location にあります。Actually, the noun が that we typically have in the beginning of this pattern has kind of been abbreviated. So we just have location にあります、location にいます。Remember that I have always stressed when you're answering a question, you want to use the same verb in your answer as you hear in the question. And how important that was to pretty much repeat the same verb in your answer that you're hearing in the question. The reason why we've been stressing that and practicing that is because that's the most polite way to answer a question in Japanese. However, it is also, please don't get mad, but it is also grammatically correct to use a different verb. In this particular case, we're going to use des in place of the にあります and にいます。はい、じゃあ皆さん、example を聞いてください。
先生、小さい箱はどこにありますか？
大きい箱の上です。
じゃあ、カバンはどこですか？
椅子の下です。
ミラさんはどこですか？
机の横です。わかりますか？はい。皆さんわかりましたか？ The thing about using des in place of the ni arimasu and ni imasu in these instances is that you don't really want to overuse it because it almost sounds somewhat lazy in that you're not really listening to what the other person is saying or asking. You're not paying too much attention to the verb or the words that the questioner is using. So in order to not appear too lazy, you want to be careful in using it and not overuse it. いいですか? Okay, so now let's take a look at the picture that is on page 120 of the textbook. And I would like you to write 3 questions and answers using this pattern, asking and stating where certain items are. And you can choose items from the box that are listed on the handout. Okay, please take a look at the example. And then write 3 questions and 3 answers. はい。皆さんいいですか？わかりますか？はい。じゃあ、皆さん今日のビデオレクチャーが終わります。じゃあ皆さんさようなら。
さようなら。